My vehicle triggered a pressure plate IED, which then blew my vehicle 10 feet in the air. I carried on going another 40 feet up in the air. And that was my first real experience of pain. I was based down in Fob Rob, we was down in Sangin. It was basically one of the most volatile parts of Afghan at the time. So, you know, it was crazy, some of the stories that you heard. We'd been assigned to go down and get these battle supplies. They tried to get other vehicles to go down, but they were taking lots of casualties in doing so. It was kind of a bit of a crash course, quite literally on the first day. The next day, I was kind of probing, I was going over ditches, trying to find the safest way across. We eventually found a way to get to the patrol base, which meant going through a farmer's field. I made the call, drove through, nothing went bang, we survived. We got another 4 runs throughout the day. Unbeknown to me, on the last run back, there was a Taliban insurgent crawling along an irrigation ditch to connect up a battery pack, which then blew my vehicle 10 feet in the air. I remember my friend Nick, he was coming up to me and I could hear him shouting my name, and I just sort of flicked my helmet off. I was like, bloody hell, Nick, what's happened? He's like, oh, you've been blown up, mate. Nick Dinsdale is my hero. He jumped out of the vehicle, he had hold of his metal detector, and he walked straight up to me. That was the fearlessness, right? So he put himself into danger to come and rescue me. The list of injuries was my right foot was smashed to pieces, my left foot, the heel, part of the shin, and some of the bone was smashed. I'd broken my left hip, and then I broke 6 vertebrae, so I broke my back in 6 places, and then ripped my liver and spleen. He said to me, like, you know, you've got severe fractures to your legs. But I didn't actually realise that a severe fracture means the bones are all shattered in your feet, and, you know, they say irreparable, and you've then got to have the feet amputated. I think within 8 or 9 weeks, I was then taking my first steps. One of my goals was to walk down the aisle on my wedding day unaided. Again, that was kind of my mentality. Like, I kept setting myself small goals, get to this next one, get to the next one, get to the next one. So before I was going down to have my operation, the surgeon said to me, what were your hobbies? And I said, I love motorbikes, I want to ride bikes. And he kind of looked at me and said, you know, maybe you should think of a new hobby. And I think that kind of manifested something. It just didn't sit well with me. So that was my next goal. So it was walking, then running, and then I wanted to ride a motorbike again on the road. And again, I didn't want to leave the army. At this point, I was fighting against people that I wanted to stay in. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to be discharged. So I was trying to prove to myself that I could still do the job. I was trying to prove to everyone else that I could still do the job. You know, unfortunately, I was still medically discharged anyway. It was the worst feeling for me from after being injured. 2015, my second son was born. Louis was born a happy, healthy little child. But it was only when Louis was just over a year old, he used to do little things that never really, it didn't sort of seem right. So just like his eyes rolling into the back of his head. So, but it was only momentarily. So then this was when alarm bells started to ring. My wife had to take him up to a hospital in London to have some tests done, because what we didn't actually realise was when he was rolling his eyes into the back of his head, he was actually having a seizure. He then lost the ability to crawl. He couldn't use his arms, couldn't use his legs. You know, he couldn't do anything. We had to feed him through a tube. When he was 2 years old, Louis caught a cold. He started to struggle to breathe. So then my wife was with him at the time. So she took him straight down to the hospital. He was put on a ventilator straight away. The consultant turned around and said, like, he's been on the life support for 4 days. They're going to try and turn the ventilator off and see if he can breathe on his own. They said if he can't breathe on his own, then we need to think about the end result. Basically, she was saying that they were going to turn the machine off and then let Louis die. When they turned off his ventilator to move him across, his lungs just filled up with water. He was drowning from the inside. We said that we didn't want to see him suffer anymore, so that's where we had to make the decision. But I don't cry about most things, but it's the only thing. Sorry. Yeah, we made the decision, and yeah, my wife held him in her arms, switched the machine off, and that was it. Sorry. I've always ridden motorbikes, so from the point of where the surgeon turned around and said to me, you need to find a new hobby, I didn't like that. So as soon as I was able to walk, I went down to a local Triumph dealership, and it was the Daytona 675R. I said I want to buy it. So I bought the bike, I got my race license. Yeah, that's when we got True Heroes Racing underway. Yeah, I was then racing within the British superbikes. I am the first other amputee to race at a national level on motorbikes. Just riding the bikes, how they're supposed to be ridden, and being a part of a team. It was a nice bit of rehabilitation for me. But it was when Louis passed away, I stepped away from the team, and now I race on my own. Through the motorcycle racing, I realised that I needed to be fitter. And it was only then through fitness that it then led me into my career path now. So as a personal trainer and now a gym owner. For me, I just want to try and live my best life for as long as I can. And that's what the racing's sort of done for me. I have a wheelchair in the garage, and I know at some point in my life I'm going to be in that wheelchair. Probably more when I'm older, because nobody really knows how long I'm going to be able to stay on prosthetics for. Military charities have played quite an integral part of my rehabilitation. Having access to the counselling and things like that helped. Without the Veterans Foundation, we wouldn't be able to gain the support or the help that we need. They play such an important part. The 12 years that I served in the army were the best 12 years of my life. I appreciate everyone's situation is different, and some people have had some real crappy lives. I've had a lot of unfortunate things happen to me, but I've also lived a good life. I've not given up. You make your own luck, right? If you would like to help British veterans like me, then please play the Veterans Lottery.